Alright, so this is going to be a tier list of all Warlock exotics at the time of recording. Now, all ratings are based on my personal opinion, but with almost 2,000 hours on Warlock, I think I have a fairly good idea of what works and what doesn't. And so without any further delay, let's get into it. Skull of Dire Ahamkara. Provides additional damage resistance during Nova Bomb. Also, Nova Bomb kills grant super energy. Now, back in the day, this exotic was very good, used almost all the time on top 3 Nova Bomb, as it could refund your entire super if you got enough kills. However, it then received a nerf capping its super refund at 50%, and after that it was rarely used if at all, making it a solid C tier. Crown of Tempest. Arc ability kills increase the recharge rate of your arc abilities and extend the duration of storm trance. Crown of Tempest is one of those exotics that you just wear by default if you are playing on arc, as the ability recharge is very good and the extended storm trance duration does come in very handy. However, if you are on Chaos Reach, Geomags are still better there. Putting this exotic in solid A tier. Eye of Another World. Highlights priority targets and improves the regeneration speed of your grenade, melee and rift abilities. Now, before you heard me read that out, did you know that this exotic exists and does that? No? Well, there's a reason why it belongs in the F tier. Nazarick's Sin. Void damage kills increase ability energy recharge rate. Nazarick's Sin is something of a Crown of Tempest, except void and better in almost every way, as it does not require ability kills to function, meaning that void kills from any source, be it your gun, your abilities, your super, will trigger this effect, and this effect can stick up to, I believe, 20 seconds, meaning it will recharge your abilities and your super for that entire duration, making this exotic one of the better, if not the best, void exotic to wear, and ending up in S tier. The Stag. Grants rift energy when you're critically wounded. On your death, creates a healing rift on your corpse. If this exotic didn't look somewhat good, I honestly don't think anyone would know that it exists at all, as it promotes dying, making it honestly the worst piece of armor you can wear, and ending up in the DCV tier. Verity's Brow. Energy weapon kills grant death throws, which provides a bonus damage to your grenades and grants you grenade energy. When you have death throws and throw a grenade, nearby allies gain greatly increased grenade regeneration for a short time. The only time I considered using this exotic was when I saw one of Error's videos on it, where it was used in a void grenade build. However, it was a secondary choice to Nazarick's Sin, and aside from that one occasion, I don't think anyone would ever wear this exotic. D tier. Apotheosis Veil. Immediately recharge your health, melee, grenade, and rift energy upon activating your super. Nearby allies recharge class abilities faster. Similarly to Eye of Another World, I don't see this helmet having any use in the game at all, as its perk simply isn't strong enough, considering the alternatives. And similarly to Eye of Another World, it ends up in the F tier. Moving on, we have Astrocyte Verse. Blink further and more frequently. Weapon readies quickly out of blink, and radar remains up. So Astrocyte Verse is one of those exotics that's fun to use from time to time, trying to, for example, cross the Morgoth Bridge with blinks only, or to mess around with in PvP. It also sees some use in speedruns where blink is used, and so it ends up in B tier for being a overall fun to use exotic. Felwinter's Helm. Powered melee final blows create a burst of energy that weakens nearby targets. Finishers and final blows against more powerful targets increase the radius of the burst and the length of the weakening effect. Felwinter's is one of those exotics that has potential if there were no alternative debuffs on targets that are easier to apply, of which there are many. So again, it is a fun concept and it could see use in the future, potentially if there was a lacking debuff or this debuff got stronger. However, for now, I will put it in the B tier. Dawn of Chorus. Your Daybreak projectiles cause targets to burn on contact and deal more damage to them. All of your burn effects last longer and you gain a small amount of melee energy each time one of your burns damage a target. So here we have an exotic that really is quite decent, and the damage that it does does give you from Dawnblade is very, very good, giving Dawnblade some of the highest total super damage outputs. However, because it takes such a long time to throw out all of your Dawnblades, it's not really that viable considering the options of, say, Nova Bomb or Chaos Reach. So I'm gonna end up putting it in B tier. Now onto one of my favorite Warlock exotics, Sunbracers. Increases the duration of solar grenades, solar melee kills grant unlimited solar grenade energy for a brief time. With a rework of top 3 Dawnblade giving you a infinite hover potential as well as a ranged powered melee that recharges with every kill you get in the air, Sunbracers have become my go-to for completing grenade kill bounties, and for that reason alone, I'm gonna put these gauntlets into S tier. Karnstein Armlets. Melee kills instantly restore a large amount of health and continue to restore health afterwards for a short duration. Now in PvP, these gauntlets really do have some very good potential if you like to bum rush people with a shotgun, for example, as the health recharge continues even after you reach full health. Meaning that if you melee kill someone and then get hit after recharging to full health, you will still retain the heal for a short duration, and that really could save you in PvP scenarios. When it comes to PvE, however, Devour is just this exotic but better in every way since it does not require melee kills. But considering its usefulness in PvP, I'll give it A tier. Winter's Guile. Eliminating enemies with melee attacks increases your melee damage. Now, this damage buff is actually quite substantial. A while back, when you could bug this effect to stay on permanently, and paired with 1-2 punch, these gauntlets really were quite handy. And nowadays, unless you really like to go around and slap stuff, this exotic really isn't that useful. D tier. Aeon Soul. Now this exotic doesn't have a description, so I'll make one up for it. Many Guardians don't know what this exotic does, but what they do know is that when you receive this exotic as a drop on any of the 3 classes, you are mandated by law to post a screenshot of it in your clan's Discord. For real though, after the rework, this exotic along with the other 2 class equivalents, it's really not that bad. But in the end, it still remains a meme, and so I'll end up putting it in C tier. Ophidian Aspect. Weapons ready and reload very quickly. Melee range is extended. Here we have another PvP focused exotic that I personally am not a very big fan of, but I do recognize that a lot of people really like using it over something like Transversive Steps. I have to admit that being able to switch between weapons quickly without doing the quick draw glitch can be very useful. So because of it being one of the better PvP exotics, I will end up putting it in A tier. Claws of Ahamkara. Gain an additional melee charge. A few seasons back, when we had the Solar Plexus artifact mod, using this exotic along with Celestial Fire was actually quite popular. However, with that mod being gone from the game now, claws don't really see that much use that I am aware of. So because of that, and because Solar Plexus is very unlikely to return, I will have to put it in E tier. Controverse Hold. Resist incoming damage while charging up your Void Grenade with Chaos Accelerant, Feed the Void, or Handheld Supernova. Charge the Void Grenades, return a random amount of grenade energy on a hit. Controverse is one of those exotics that every Warlock should have a decent roll of, as it is one of the best exotics to pair with top 3 Void Warlocks. And if you've ever watched one of Esoteric's solo GM runs, you will quite likely recognize this exotic as he uses it in most of his Warlock runs. This really is one of the best Warlock exotics in the game. I don't think anyone will dispute its well-deserved spot in S tier. Getaway Artist. Convert your Arc Grenade into a supercharged Arc Soul. The Arc Soul functions as an autonomous turret. Having this Arc Soul on you feels like having a random patrol blueberry strapped to your Warlock shooting at random targets around you, as well as being pretty fun to use in raid runs where you have 6 of these. But honestly, it's more of a gimmick than an actual good exotic, so I'm gonna have to put it in C tier. Necrotic Grip. Damaging combatants envenoms them with a poison that deals increasing damage over time. Defeating a poisoned combatant spreads the condition to nearby targets. I would also like to add that this exotic does in fact work with Thorn. This exotic would have some good ad clear potential if there existed areas with a large amount of enemies in close proximity to each other. But this being Destiny 2, those scenarios are quite rare, as well as Warmind cells existing and being better in almost every way. So I'll have to put Necrotic in C tier. However, there's one thing that this exotic can do, and it can be quite impressive to watch. Starfire Protocol. Fusion grenades have an additional charge and recharge from empowered weapon damage. Fusion grenade kills grant rift energy. Back before Beyond Light, when Scourge of the Past got sunset, this exotic was a must-have in Scourge speedruns, allowing people to dupe balls in the first and the last encounter. But with the removal of Scourge of the Past, and Bungie's insistence on constantly removing such bugs from the game, Starfire really has fallen into the never-used exotic category. But if Scourge is ever to return, this exotic will surely be used in speedruns once again. However, in its current state and the state of the game, it has to be in C tier. Wings of Sacred Dawn. When Dawnblade is equipped, aiming weapons while you're mid-air suspends you there for a short time, improving airborne accuracy, reducing incoming flinch, and granting damage resistance. Weapon hits extend this effect's duration. Here we have an exotic that has been entirely replaced by a grenade ability. With top 3 Dawnblade, consuming your grenade basically gives you this exotic's effect for free. And in my opinion, a better version of it, as you do not have to aim down sights to activate it. And outside of a handful of scenarios where you want to have this equipped to simply jump further, nowadays this exotic has basically no use in the game at all. E tier. Vesper of Radius. Rifts release an arc shockwave when cast. Rift energy recharges faster when you are surrounded by enemies. Early in Beyond Light, this effect would stack with one of the stasis fragments, allowing you to both freeze and deal damage with your rifts. That has been fixed since, however, making this exotic fall back into its rightful place of never being used, and so it ends up all the way down in E tier. Sanguine Alchemy. Weapon kills while standing in any rift pause the rift's countdown, extending its duration. Further kills maintain and extend the length of the pause. Realistically, I see 2 uses for this exotic. Messing around with your friends in PvP, sitting in a rift with either Deadman's Tail or a 120 hand cannon, two-shotting everybody, as well as being used in the throwaway for AFKing. But having a permanent empowering rift can be quite handy sometimes. And also it just looks very sleek. And so I'll end up putting it in B tier. Chromatic Fire. When a light subclass is equipped, precision final blows with your kinetic weapon create an explosion of the element of your subclass. In all honesty, this exotic is like having Firefly on all your kinetic weapons, and you have to give up an exotic armor slot for it. In my opinion, this exotic has no place in the game anymore, especially with the release of Firefly on Vault of Glass weapons, and so I'll end up putting it down in E tier. Phoenix Protocol. Kills and assists you make while standing in your Well of Radiance return super energy. Here we have one of those must-have exotics for Grandmaster Nightfalls or Day 1 raids, as even with the nerf it received back in the day, it can still return a good chunk of your well back. And so with all that, I don't think anyone will dispute its position in S tier. Storm Dancer's Brace. Each enemy you defeat with Storm Trance increases the damage you deal with Storm Trance. This exotic tries to turn a ad clear super into a damage dealing super. However, with Chaos Reach existing in the game, Storm Trance really has no reason to try to be a damage dealing super, making this exotic fairly useless to be honest. And so it's gonna end up down in E tier. Mantle of Battle Harmony. Takedowns with weapons that have damage type matching your subclass element grant you super energy. While your super energy is full, you instead gain a temporary bonus to weapon damage of the type matching your subclass element. On release, people really did think that this exotic would be fairly good, but as it turns out, no one ended up picking it up in any builds. But the concept of it remains quite interesting and potentially very good. But as it stands, it's not really used in any kind of builds in the game at all. And with all that, it's gonna end up in D tier. Transversive Steps. Sprint speed increased. After a short time sprinting, your currently equipped weapon is automatically reloaded. Now here we go, my favorite Warlock exotic, and I think for a very good reason. The sprint speed increase alone is very noticeable, and pairing it with a reload makes this exotic, in my opinion, the best Warlock exotic in the game, allowing you not only to sprint to cover faster, but also reload your currently equipped weapon at the same time. This exotic really is worthy of S tier in every single way possible. So there, it's an S tier, of course. Lunafaction Boots. Your rifts gain the additional ability to increase weapon reload speeds. Empowering Rift makes weapons effective over longer ranges, and Well of Radiance gains both of those effects simultaneously. Lunafaction Boots along with a Well is something of a must-have when it comes to doing damage with double slug shotguns on something like Taniks, Templar or Aeon, as it extends the range of slug shotguns quite far, allowing you to deal maximum damage even at distance. And so of course Lunas are gonna end up in S tier. Geomag Stabilizers. When Chaos Reach super energy is almost full, sprinting tops it off. Damaging enemies with Chaos Reach extends its duration. Geomags alone pretty much make Chaos Reach the go-to super for DPS for Warlocks, extending the duration of Chaos Reach quite a bit. And so for single-handedly making a super a top tier DPS choice, of course they're gonna end up in S tier. Prometheum Spur. While Daybreak is active, defeating combatants or guardians creates a healing and an empowering rift at their location. Now the concept of Prometheum Spur is quite interesting, but Dawnblade being a ranged or a roaming super means that you're going to be killing enemies quite far away from you, making those rifts essentially useless by the time you get to them. And so you're much better off wearing something like Dawn Chorus when using Dawnblade. And so unless this exotic receives some sort of a buff making it last longer, I don't think it's ever going to be useful at all. Therefore, I'm gonna end up putting this exotic in E tier. Boots of the Assembler. Standing in a healing rift creates noble seekers that seek out allies that are not in a rift and heal them. Standing in an empowering rift creates noble seekers that grant both you and your allies a damage bonus. Each time a noble seeker finds one of your allies, the duration of your rift is briefly extended while you are standing in it. This is the most recent Warlock exotic to be introduced into the game at the time of recording, and honestly it's not that bad. For example, in PvP you can be essentially a Lumina buff on demand, and as most of you know, the downfall of Lumina is that you need to get a kill before you can apply the buff. So these boots essentially eliminate the kill part of that, honestly making them quite strong. And for the last rating, these boots end up in A tier. So that's gonna be it for this tier list. If you disagree with any of my picks, please let me know in the comments below. And if you made it this far in the video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Also, I do stream on Twitch once in a while, so make sure you follow. All links will be down in the description. Thanks for watching.